So another fight, another change of opponent, everything moving around. I mean, that's just kind of just normal at this point?
Yeah, business as usual. I think so. That's 3 in a row that opponents dropped out like 2 weeks or less from the event. And I think it's maybe nine times total in my career with the UFC. So we're like 25%. So yeah, so it's business as usual. You know, I train to be the best fighter that I can be every out. So you know, and at this point, I fought everybody from the tall, lanky, 6'4" lefties to guys my height and righties and grapplers and wrestlers and strikers. So I appreciate it when guys are willing to step up, because there are a lot of fighters that say, anytime, any place, anywhere, and sometimes those guys don't say yes. So, so yeah, I'm appreciative that Jared hopped in here on 2 weeks' notice.
Is there ever a situation where you wouldn't say yes? Like, is there an opponent that could be so different to the guy that you were booked that you were like, I can't do that on a week's notice or something like that?
No, not really. I mean, for me, it's really always just been the opportunity to fight. Because like what I'm really chasing and always have been chasing is that like perfect fight. And any skill set that an opponent brings could be that one. Where I go out and I'm like, that was as close to perfect as we're gonna get. So yeah, and I'm stubborn as hell if you haven't noticed yet. So like when I get that date, because I could have waited for Klein, until like mid-July, but yeah, I'd already put in a month of training and been busting my butt, and I didn't want to have to do it for another 2 months. So I want to fight, so. And I want to end my career like I started my career, which is being aggressive and fighting and being active. So that's what I'm going to do.
As much as you love to fight, I wonder how much of your life outside of like the actual fight is spent thinking about MMA? Because I look at you on social media and it's farming, it's brewing, it's grilling, it's health. I mean, are you thinking about MMA as little as possible outside of fights themselves?
I try. Yeah, that's kind of the goal. Because like, the personality type that made me fall in love with this sport is that I like learning. I like learning new skills. I like sucking at stuff and dealing with failure and overcoming it. So I like to do that stuff outside the octagon as well, and like I'm a busybody. I can't do the playing video games or watching Netflix, stuff like that. That's not me. I need to be tinkering with stuff and getting my hands dirty and it's just like when I don't get to do that stuff, like so we moved a couple of years ago, and I don't have a workshop at my place. Like I built 2 sets of nursery furniture and did our kitchen cabinets in our old place and did all this stuff. And it's like I've got a bunch of shop tools that I don't have a place to set them up, and it bugs me and it like eats me alive. So yeah, like I obviously I find stuff to do, but like I enjoy that type of stuff because you gotta be and like a guy like Donald Cerrone, like he's always doing his stuff, as he was fighting, and people would give him shit for being Donald, and it's like, man, like he's still going out and he's performing and he's doing the things that he needs to do to take his mind off of it, to relax, to actively recover and all sorts of that, all that other stuff. So I always appreciated that about him, that he was the same guy, whether it was 2 weeks out from a fight or, he had just fought a couple weeks ago. And I'm kind of the same way. We have some similarities in what the stuff we like to do, and then we've got some differences. But like he's always one of those guys that I appreciate that about him.
matchup with Jared. I know, there's a lot of guys on the roster you might not know a whole ton about, but this guy, I imagine you'll have crossed paths a little bit, East Coast, kind of veteran, been around. So just give me your thoughts on him as a guy, as a fighter in the matchup.
Yeah, I like it. I don't, like I said, I really don't, it doesn't really matter to me, like, who's stepping across. Sometimes those unknown guys, it's more pressure, it's more uncertainty, I like fighting guys that I've seen fight a bunch of times and that I'm a fan of, and I've watched Jared over the years. He fought a few of my training partners, years ago before he got into the UFC, and he's a guy that we could have crossed paths at any time, over the years, and we just haven't. And I like the matchup. I think it's an exciting fight, I'm pumped for it.
Last thing for me, we know the march to 300 still continues on, or maybe beyond that. We'll see. Does the mullet go with you the whole way?
I don't know. It's starting to grow on my wife a little bit. So, that was the big hurdle to get over. So, yeah, she's starting to appreciate it a little bit. My boys were watching Roadhouse the other day, and I was like, that's what my hair was before I got the haircut. I had to trim it out of my eyes. It was getting bad, but I was like, I was there.
Hey, Jim. What was the biggest thing that you took from your loss to Alexander Hernandez?
It was a close fight, right? I had some of the media outlets that picked me as the winner. The thing of it is I'm never going to change the way that I fight, especially at this point, right? What got me into MMA was watching guys like, Fedor and Matt Hughes, Chuck, Henzo, Vanderlei, like these guys that just went out and they fought their asses off. They weren't point fighting. And I mean, I went out there and I feel like I had more instances where I had opportunities to finish the fight than he did. And I know that the fights aren't scored like they were back in the Pride days. But if it was, I think I win that fight. And, and I think there are a few fights that I've lost through my career that if the fight was scored on, who was trying to finish the fight more, I probably would have won. And then there's probably, a fight or two that I've lost. Specifically the second Lozon fight. If they've scored that as who was trying to finish the fight more or who came closer to finishing the fight, then he wins that one. But that's the way that I fight. Like I'm never happy when it goes to the judges. Even the dominant, decision wins that I've had. It's not what I step into the octagon to do. I step in there to dominate and to put my opponent away because that's what excites me. So. The takeaway is sometimes fighting the way that I fight sucks, and it costs me money and it costs me a W on my record. But in the grand scheme of things, I won't change. I won't have it any other way, I think it still just builds a legacy. And I mean, aside from that, also on eye pokes and gloves and stuff like that, it's not the gloves. I would really like to see, like they did back in the Pride days. I would like to see, percentage purse deductions and points immediately, like zero tolerance, because it's not. It's not an accident. It's not the glove that causes it. It's the tentativeness in the person throwing the strikes is what causes it.
Who wins in a fight, a UFC flyweight or an NFL linebacker?
I'm probably going to go with the UFC flyweight. Honestly, just more ways to win. I think. Better conditioned to deal with the pace, yeah, you wrap your arms around somebody's neck and they go unconscious, you know. So yeah, it's a tough fight. It's always a tough fight. Size and strength are tools, you know. They're weapons, and you know, I am 100% on the like strength and conditioning side of this. I believe that the sport is, you know, it's a clear 50-50 split, you know, and obviously like there are fighters that are better athletes that aren't as technically proficient, and there are fighters that are super technically proficient that aren't great athletes, and they make up for it. But yeah, size and strength, it's and having sparred with plenty of guys that are like pushing 3 bills, you know, it sucks, you know, and I mean, one of the things that I always used to say is I would have fought my brother, you know. And the thing is it's going to be a tough fight for me because I was a smaller guy, you know, and I know that if like I could catch him in jiu-jitsu, I could take him down wrestling, I could land good shots. But when you add it all together and then he's able to fatigue me for 15 minutes, it's going to be a much harder fight for me, you know. So, but yeah, flyweight.
Thanks, man.
Jim, you mentioned earlier the perfect fight.
Yep.
How close have we gotten to that, or with who did you have the closest to that perfect?
You know, probably the closest was Fabricio Camo's. Honestly, you know, I submitted a 3rd-degree black belt from my back, you know, with an armbar, and he was fresh, he was uninjured, so that was pretty close. But he took me down and he hit me a couple times. So like that's the thing that, you know, kind of stands out in my mind, where it's like, man, it still could have been better. But yeah, there've been a couple that have been pretty close. You know, it's got to be part like it's got to be, you know, dominant and violent, but it also has to be a little bit like I need to be pushed a little bit too. So like that's the hard part, right? It's like figuring out like what exactly, like on the spectrum, is it, you know, me and Lozon 1, you know, or is it like those dominant coming and steamroll somebody? I think it's somewhere in between, you know, and it's the unicorn that I think I'll never catch.
All right, well, I hope you do this weekend. Last for me, you mentioned being a fan of guys. What made you a fan of the person you signed up to fight this Saturday?
Just his aggressiveness. He comes out to fight. Like he's not somebody that's out there to point fight. He's not. You know, sometimes like I understand the game. I've been around for a long time. I was pressured, you know, over a decade ago to like, hey, you know, become the heel, you know, sell the fights more, this and that. But like I said, that's not what made me fall in love with the sport. You know, and Jared's a guy that goes out and he fights hard and he does his thing and you know, like he had a crummy decision that didn't go his way, and there are probably plenty of athletes on the planet that'd be, you know, pissing and moaning about it, and he didn't. He hopped right back on there and you know, hopped into another fight.
Excellent. Thank you, sir, and good luck on Saturday.
Thank you.